I'm George Wrighster. He's Ralph Amsden, and this is the College Football Apostles presented by the Unafraid Show. So we got a lot to talk about today because the college football playoffs, the second rankings came out, and everybody is all on edge. Everybody's scared. They're nervous. And oh my God, the SEC is getting. Oh, stop it! It's crying, dude. I can't. I can't take the SEC tears. We also have to talk about Kirby Smart. He called one of his players an idiot. The pressure is getting to him. Diego Pavia filed a lawsuit against the NCAA for an injunction. We'll talk about how that went. And the roster size limitations in college football and in just college sports in general are going to cause a massive issue. It's caused an issue in my family for my nephew. And so we got to talk about that as well. And also all sorts of things in the world of college football, and you guys don't want to miss it here on Unafraid Show, College Football Apostles. And you guys make sure that you like, subscribe, tell a friend about the show, and of course, get notifications and share. So leave a comment right there. All right, so we will start, Ralph, with the college football playoff. You had Paul Feinbaum, you had everybody crying about how is Georgia ranked so low? Oh my gosh, Georgia, this sucks. They're out of the college football playoff. They have 2 losses. Nobody plays the schedule like this. And I'm like, do you know how many years that Georgia has won the schedule roulette? They have not played. They played Georgia twice in the non-conference. Well, not in conference play. Oh, sorry, in conference play. Excuse me. They played Alabama twice in conference play since like 2018. Twice. And we're supposed to sit up here and act like that the SEC schedules are really good. They're not. They are the same as what my Michigan did last year with a terrible non-conference. What Ohio State did this year with a terrible non-conference. And mind you, I hate that. I hate it with the power of 1,000 suns. But the SEC tiers, Ralph, and the double standard where where they would say the Pac 12, oh, their team lost, the Oregon lost, Washington lost, USC lost. They just played themselves out of it. But now it's the SEC and there's a vested interest. And now all of a sudden it's, this is wrong. The conference is just too competitive.
Yeah, I mean, we're all lobbyists for our own self-interest, and what is ESPN's interest, right? It's in having the teams that rate the highest, they paid the most money to be able to broadcast, be able to participate in the postseason tournament. And so before any three-loss SEC team is even potentially eligible, and I mean, you can make an argument for maybe South Carolina or something like that, being a 3-loss team that if they win out could deserve some consideration. But you have to consider everything in totality to just come out and like Heather Dinich to just come out and be like, this is what it should be. Don't write somebody off just because they have 3 losses. Like we're writing off ACC teams if they get 1 loss.
Exactly. Exactly. And then you got people like Clay Travis out here talking about some. Well, do you really believe SMU could beat Alabama or Georgia or Tennessee?
It's not
Well,
about belief.
yes. Did you if I told you before the season that Vanderbilt was going to beat Alabama, would you have believed that? That Arkansas was going to beat Tennessee? No. Would you have believed that Kentucky was going to give Georgia all it could handle? And Florida too? Would you have believed that? Absolutely not. So
If
there's
you
a
want
lot
to
of things that you didn't believe that actually did happen.
honestly, like at this point, for people who feel that way, go do your own thing. Just go away. Go. Be like if you want to make the rest of college football the new FCS, whatever, but don't have us around just to exclude us.
Oh,
You know?
and that's what Rhett Lashley was talking about. And I loved him for that. I thought that he made a great point. He was talking about the ACC and he was like, yo, the league has has a chance to have a winning record versus the SEC this year. They did last year, and we're sitting here just poo pooing the league and all the metrics say that these teams are good. Now, here's the thing that I find interesting, right? Let's say that Colorado ends up in the Big 12 championship against BYU, right? And they don't play in the regular season. So 12 and 0 BYU, who's now ranked sixth in the college football playoff. Imagine a world where Colorado and BYU play in the Big 12 championship. Colorado wins. Let's say they win in a close game. You know that, and that means Colorado gets an automatic berth. So you know what that means, Ralph, right?
I switched to a different.
So you know what that means, right, Ralph? What's going to happen to either BYU or Miami or whoever, they're or Indiana, they're going to get pushed out of the college football playoff. That's that's what's going to happen if Colorado or SMU ends up winning. Oh well, if SMU ends up winning the ACC, ACC is only getting one team in because they've been painted as the one bid. So, Ralph, after all of the election talk, you know, Harris, Trump, everything, we thought it was over. But now the propaganda has continued in college football. You got people caping for whoever they're voting for and whoever they want in. And they have predetermined. The ACC is only a one bid league. So's the Big 12. We got to get four Big 10 teams in, four SEC teams in, and then the group of five teams. So that leaves nine, and then the other three y'all can fight for.
It makes sense to me. I mean, I don't know. I'm still stuck on this. Rhett Lashley. He must be talking about the fact that Clemson still has the South Carolina game
Yep.
at the end of the year. And if they win that game, that's just are we going to hear from these same people?
No.
If the ACC has an overall winning record against the SEC,
For the second year in a row.
right? With Florida State being completely out of commission,
Yeah.
they didn't even help this time.
They did nothing. They did
Yes,
nothing to help. They were actually a net negative.
they could have taken the year off.
They did take the year off.
The Florida State sabbatical.
Yes. So I find this very interesting because people get to talk. They talk about resumes. They're like, "Who is Penn State beat? What are we talking about? They can't beat anybody." And maybe Penn State can't because they don't win big time games. But if you look at their resume and Texas's resume, their resume is actually better than Texas's, if we're being honest, because Texas is number three. They're 8-1. They lost by 15 to Georgia. That was a beat up. They got no current ranked wins. Strength of schedule 56, strength of record 10. Penn State 8-1, lost by 7 to Ohio State, no ranked wins, strength of schedule 30, strength of record 5. But they're not complaining. All they see is four Big Ten teams ranked in the top five, and they're like, where are our teams? This is the new normal season. Y'all ain't dominant like that no more. And they're like, well, the conference is so competitive. But I thought it was so competitive even when Georgia and Alabama were running through the conference. I thought it was still so competitive. Oh, now with the transfer portal, NIL, rosters are getting a little bit thinner. And now they're starting to understand what it's like to be cannibalizing yourself.
Yeah, I mean we're Pac-12 cast-off, so I'm very curious as to why the thing you hated about me is now the thing you like about yourself.
Exactly.
And I am calling the committee a bunch of Big Ten and and SEC homers
Yes.
because like I look at Penn State right now and I'm like that is an overrated team. It's an extraordinarily overrated team.
Yeah. I actually think Indiana would put the screws to Penn State.
Absolutely, yeah, and that shouldn't be. Indiana's resume is better than Penn State's right now. It just is.
Well, and then but here's the problem. And this is not just the committee's fault because I make it a point, and we make it a point to like try to be honesty brokers and realize biases. And all year we've been talking about strip the names off, because if Indiana was doing what they were doing and they were Ohio State or they were Michigan or they were Alabama, they'd be number one in the nation, even over Oregon right now. And we have to, like, people aren't used to seeing that Indiana is good. They're not used to that. So it doesn't feel so it's a natural, like, there's no way that they're that good. Same way with SMU. There's no way they're that good. Same way with BYU, even though BYU has the most ranked wins out of anybody in the top 25 right now. But we're not sure about them. Even though I don't think that they're the most talented team, but they keep winning. That's all that matters. Um,
Well,
but now
BYU,
though, huh?
even I'm skeptical of BYU because they're winning ugly. But then I have to look at and say the teams ranked ahead of them, are all of their wins pretty really outside of Oregon? No,
Yeah,
not
really
Ohio
about
State. Ask
nope.
Ohio State fans about that Nebraska game, and they will have a full-on anxiety attack. And they won.
You are right about that. That's a fact. Speaking of coaches that are under a little bit of pressure and all their games haven't, or even all their wins haven't been pretty, is Kirby Smart. So he called Jake Pope an idiot, only to apologize the next day. What do you think about that?
Um. Okay, so there's something like incredibly ironic about Kirby Smart receiving this information, which he already knew. He got asked about it, but he already knew about it. Calling the kid an idiot, and then the next day coming out and saying, I probably shouldn't have said that. He was just being understandably emotional at the time. And then I hope somewhere in the recesses of Kirby Smart's brain, it registered to him that when put in a situation where he had the opportunity to act in a measured response or act emotionally, he chose to be emotional.
Exactly.
Your if your standard, if your standard it is to not act with emotion, not be reactive, but to uphold a standard in the way you behave in the context of what's surrounding you. Jake Pope should have realized that they just lost. Doesn't matter if you randomly saw family friends who you love in the aftermath of a child's game, you should not look happy. That is the judgment that everybody has passed on Jake Pope. It's an understandable one. I think maybe we're taking things a little too serious, but it is what it is. If you're saying that he should have understood everything that was going on around him and acted in a way that denied his own personal urges and desires in order to respect the context, but when you're put in that same
Mm,
opportunity, you
mm,
call your player an idiot,
preach.
something you never did when Jalen Carter helped get one of your other players killed.
He was the
Maybe
and they're players that have been arrested and all this. Hey, man,
none of
these
them are
are
idiots.
yeah,
None of them are
they're all
idiots. It's
they're
all
all
just the
kids that we
situation they found
gotta,
themselves.
they're all kids that we gotta help.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this. I hope he learned something about himself. I hope he did. Did he? I don't. He makes $36,000 a day, George. Every day. Every day that he wakes up, he's making $36,000.
That's a good gig. I need that. Need that.
But if you see somebody who you love and they love you and you didn't expect to see them and you're on the field after a child's game and they're already happy because their team won and you smile, you're an idiot. Real cool. Real cool culture we built for ourselves out here. They're just getting easier and easier to root against. And I think he's an awesome coach and a great motivator and a hell of a talent collector and a good developer of football players and a great developer of assistant coaches. You've benefited from that. Um, but yeah, this is a dumb thing that he said, and he should feel dumb. Maybe
Yep.
he should feel like an idiot.
Oh, that's a fact. All right, next thing up. Matt Rhule, Nebraska head coach. He defended his offensive coordinator, Marcus Satterfield, and then demoted him for recent consultant Dana Holgerson. Um, why would fans believe anything a coach says at this point? This is funny to me because Nebraska is ranked 99 in total offense at 354 yards a game. They're also ranked 100th in scoring offense and only scoring 23.6 points a game. And Dylan Raiola, their young quarterback, he's had a rough go at it the last few games, and it was all after the baby Mahomes thing started. Cause remember they put that promo up. It was before one of the. It was like 3 games ago. They were doing a big noon kickoff, and they were like, "And baby Mahomes," and I was like, "No, no, no! Don't do that! Don't do that! You're setting the kid up for disaster. This is worse than the announcer jinx because he's only a freshman. Nebraska is up and coming. They're not good yet. You are setting him up for failure." And I've met the kid a bunch of times. Him and my kid are friends. I just know that when you're cosplay Mahomes like he is right now, you're not being yourself. And he's got to step into who he is and his own individuality. And once he understands that part of it, because yes, it's dope that Mahomes is your idol. That's who you have. That's who you pattern yourself out of. You train with him. All of those things. But in that, he's got to find himself. And once he does that, I think the kid's going to be fine.
Yeah, I mean, you probably got to do something because he has what, one touchdown pass in the last 4 games.
Yes. And a bunch of interceptions.
And this is a kid who's at 4 high schools in 3 years. He was committed to 3 different colleges.
Mm.
Uh, he'll move. He'll move. So you got.
You
I mean,
think
you got
he'll
to do.
hop in the portal?
Yes,
Really?
he was at. He played high school football in 3 different states.
That's his dad's alma mater, though.
But he had the option to commit to Nebraska at any given time, and he chose Ohio State, and then he chose Georgia. He'll move. You can't go there
Mm.
as the number one overall recruit out of high school and not produce when you're on the field.
Mm.
That's going to get blamed on somebody. He'll
Yes.
move. So you have to do something to show him that you're serious. The funny thing is just the order that this happened in, because they have a game on November 2nd where they lose. On November 4th, Matt Rhule does media and he defends Marcus Satterfield. One day
Okay.
later, they bring in Dana Holgerson from TCU. I've never seen a consultant jump teams in season before. That was
Yes.
wild.
Yep.
And then
No.
they're on a bye week. They're on a bye week right now, so it's not like
Mm.
Marcus Satterfield had another opportunity to screw up.
Yeah.
Which means that when Matt Rhule came out and defended Marcus Satterfield, he already had his mind made up on making a change.
Yep. Because they like if you look at the last few games against UCLA, Ohio State, Indiana, and Rutgers, that's kind of where the wheels fell off. Is he hasn't thrown an intercept. Oh, well, he's only thrown one touchdown in the last 4 games and he's thrown 6 picks. So the competition has stepped up. I mean, I guess the defenses have stepped up the last 3 weeks against UCLA, Ohio State, and Indiana. But I also think that, man, it's just tough, dude. Like, it's tough to start as a true freshman. And I know a lot of kids think that, oh, man, I got to start as a true freshman and all of this. But it's a lot to that. And if they don't, and remember, Rowler was like, we can still win here. And sometimes, like Caleb Williams, when he first got to the NFL, he was like, well, we ain't gonna punt a lot around here. Like, I know how to win. You don't know shit from Shinola. You've never been here. You don't know what it's like to win in the NFL. You don't know what it's like to win in college. It's harder than you think, and they're getting a rude awakening right now.
Yeah, and honestly, like the pressure is on Nebraska because they've been on the verge of clinching a bowl for a month, and there's a real chance that they don't do it, and so they got to be getting desperate. Like we've talked about on this show before, and we've talked about privately. I would drive down to Columbia to see Spencer Rattler play.
Yeah,
'Cause I only live 2 hours north of there, and I would call you after those games and I would say, "This is the worst offense I've ever seen in my life." And you'd be like, "Well, they just beat Texas A&M." And I'm like, "It does not matter. Like, it's the way that it's run. It's either Spencer Rattler drops back 15 yards to be able to throw a bomb to Xavier Legette, or he just working screens on the outside. There's
yeah,
no nuance to it, and it was awful. And Nebraska bringing in Marcus Satterfield, I didn't think that was going to be good for Dylan Raiola, because they're similarly not super mobile with a big arm. And you and I have had a lot of conversations about what Dylan Raiola does not do well, and that's escape pressure or get rid of
yeah.
the football. And so I thought it was going to be a disaster. What is very interesting to me is Dana Holgerson is an air raid guy. You're going to switch to air raid in the middle of the season?
Mm. Yeah, and Nebraska's not set up to air raid. Like they
It's
don't have the
it's
air
going to
raid
be
weapons.
it's going to be fascinating. And I
Definitely
wonder if it's a long-term move. I wonder if Holgerson, like, this is where he's gonna lock
put
in,
down
and
some
if
roots
that's what
for
they're
a
gonna
little
move
while.
toward. Yeah, I don't know. I am very interested about what's happening there. But as far as, like, can we believe anything Matt Rhule says? If we're out here believing coaches, we made a huge mistake.
That's a fact. What do you think are the downstream effects of the new roster size limitations in college football? So we know that 2.8 billion dollar House versus the NCAA settlement is not finalized yet, and I actually think it's further away than people think that it is, because there's going to be more and more lawsuits, and they're changing the roster sizes, so they're dropping from an average roster size in FBS of 121 to 105, but they're upping the scholarship limit from 85, where you can go all the way to 105. Teams like Georgia said they're staying at 85, because obviously that impacts how much NIL that you have to pay. It's a lot. There's a lot of bean counters trying to figure this whole thing out right on now. And this impacted my nephew in terms of, because he's a baseball player, committed to Cal. And then when they dropped the roster sizes, that changed his situation. So now there have been other kids who have been impacted the exact same way. And I'm wondering what are going to be the unintended consequences in college football, because the roster size is dropping down from 105 to from 121 to 105. That means less walk-ons, because from 85 to 121 was all walk-ons. And now dropping to 105, but then increasing the amount of scholarships. I don't know how that benefits college football, because the walk-ons are very important.
You about to spill a secret?
What's that?
What the walk-ons are used for?
What do you mean, practice?
Well, if you're on the football team, you got a team GPA, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Yes. That is a good point.
You got
Yes,
a
because
team academic progress rate.
yes. Yep. That good old APR. I didn't even think about that, Ralph. And but you are 100% right. A lot of the walk-ons, like the vast majority of walk-ons, like they graduate at a much higher rate than the scholarship players, except at like Stanford and like Northwestern. Um, so yeah, so that means some of these APR rates are going to fall. And truthfully, so I've had some conversations with some people at some schools, and that's actually one of the things that they are highly concerned about right now, is that their graduation rates are going down a lot with the advent of the transfer portal, because players are more trying to stay eligible, and then when they transfer, credits get lost, messed up, and then they're not graduating nearly at the rate that they were. So that is highly concerning.
So this is my question then. Like, what is like Ring of Honor stuff going to look like 5, 10 years down the road?
Mm. Oh my gosh. Okay. Prime. I'm glad you brought that up because I saw a video today about Dylan Gabriel at Oregon. They were talking. It was basically like a Heisman video comparing him with Marcus and all of this stuff. It was a school video, and I was like, so if he wins a Heisman Trophy, where does he stand in Oregon, the Oregon pantheon? If he wins a Heisman Trophy and a national championship, where does he go? He's only been there. He would have been there for less than for barely more than a year, for like a year and like 2 weeks by the time the national championship happens. So he's gonna get a trophy there because obviously he played there. But he would have spent more time at Oklahoma and UCF than he spent at Oregon.
Yeah.
So does he go in the Ring of Honor? I mean, obviously he's gonna get a place there because of a Heisman Trophy, and you are and the first national championship, bro. You are going to be beloved there.
Yeah. I don't know. I wonder about stuff like this when, because you talk about this all the time. Everybody in the NBA makes the Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah.
Uh, what team is Paul George going to represent there? Nobody likes that man. Like, that's what we're entering
And
into.
the fact that he could be a Hall of Famer is ridiculous. That's a whole nother thing. Like he's a very good player, but not like anyways. Yeah. I can't even I can't even fathom Paul George as a Hall of Famer. Like that should not be so. But he is a very good player, but still.
do you think
But you
do you think we're going to see like some really really good group of 6 teams because of this?
what do you mean?
More 3-star high schoolers going to like Toledo
I
because there's
would.
not room for them.
Ooh. No, but thing is it gonna be I mean, it's gonna be room for them because it's not like they're reducing the scholarship number. They're actually increasing it. So there are more players who can get scholarships coming out of high school.
Yeah, I think it's just a wait and see thing for me. I don't know what the downstream effects are going to be. I know that there's going to be a lot less people who I think probably play football after high school than there used to be. But it's a lot of other sports being affected by this as well.
Yes, for sure. All right, next one up. There seemed to be an increased amount of students throwing objects onto the field. Is it even possible to stop that? So we've had incidents where Texas Tech was throwing like they were throwing uh, tortillas at Colorado, and they were and Joey McGuire had to get on the mic and ask students to stop trying to throw it. Utah hit a BYU cheerleader in the face with a water bottle. Clemson and LSU fans threw trash on the field. Texas was throwing trash. And this is why you can't let people get away with stuff. The only way to stop this is to make an example out of them kids. You throw stuff on the field, you're kicked out of school. You are
That's what I
banned.
was I was wondering if you're going to go there, if you were going to relate it to their actual like academic status.
Yes, or you are banned from games. And if you're not a student, we are pressing charges. Yeah, we are pressing charges because the only way to stop that, because the Texas fans, they got a call overturned. And so now fans are like, okay, cool. Nothing happened to those people. So cool. We'll do it. But have a couple people be made an example of? Yeah, I like it. I like it.
But I didn't love Texas Tech's student section going to war with Colorado like that. And Colorado invites it. Like they want that energy. They want to taunt the crowd. They want to flash the watch. They want to have Dion Jr. film it so they could package it for content. Like they want the conflict, but when you're getting hit with tortillas, what's to stop somebody from throwing something else? And like you said, in the BYU game, a BYU cheer coach got hit in the face with a bottle
Yeah.
from a Utah fan. Now you got your guy Joey McGuire getting on the mic in the middle of the game screaming at the students to stop throwing stuff. You got LSU throwing things now.
Yep.
It
It's out of
feels
control.
like yeah, if and I thought the consequences in Texas was like you have to identify everybody.
Yep.
And I mean, you can now. If I went to a Charlotte Hornets game last year to see LeBron play, and afterward, I got an email from the Charlotte Hornets that said, "Do you want to see yourself in your seat?"
Whoa.
And I was like, "What the hell does that mean?" So I click on it, and they filmed the whole crowd. And they put out a so you can get on there and you can look at, which is a little scary, like if you're sitting 3 rows away from if you're unstable mentally, you're sitting 3 rows away from an attractive female, and you want to find out more about her, you can jump on that app and zoom in on her in the stands. Like I don't know how I feel about the Minority Report future that we're living in, but the technology certainly exists to identify anybody who does something stupid.
Yep. No, you are 100% right. 100% right. If you were a college football general manager, how would you allocate the $20.5 million revenue share cap for the players? How much would go to the quarterback, and what percentage do you dedicate to incoming freshmen? This is easy for me. Ain't nobody worried about no $20.5 million. Nobody worried about that. Do you know why? Because we still got boosters outside who will give deals.
Who is
Like
we?
we, as in colleges, Ohio State, Oregon, Alabama, hell, Boise State, Utah. Everybody has boosters that own businesses. Oh, hey, now, all right. So we only got $750,000 for our quarterback. So how about let's actually bump that, because we need to get these other kids paid a little bit of something too. So we'll bump the quarterback down to 500,000, but then the car dealership over here, they'll kick in another 150, and then he'll get a deal with Rainbow Enterprises in the city to do a commercial for them. That's another 150, and then they'll just piecemeal it together from the community, which are going to be legal NIL deals. So the idea of a salary cap, it's not. It would be like in the NBA, LeBron James making $50 million, right? Who is LeBron James' real employer? Like his actual employer?
Nike.
Nike. He makes more money from Nike than he ever will in the NBA. So it would be like the NBA putting a cap on LeBron James endorsement deals with Taco Bell and Sprite and whoever else, because it's unfair to competition. You can't. So it is still going to be an arms race of who can get what. The difference is the school can pay some of this money out instead of it being sorted through the collectives and outside it, which I do like better, because then there's
So
some transparency and accountability when kids don't live up to what they agreed to. And when they do, they should still be paid.
so how would you allocate 20.5 million at your disposal as a college football GM?
It so freshmen are getting a base pay, right? Of our top freshmen, right? So we are going to rank them down.
What percentage of that 20.5 are you dedicating to incoming high school freshmen, not transfer portal people, but
Let's say
incoming
I
high
get
school freshmen?
25 freshmen coming in, probably $2.5 million.
So an average of 100K per freshman.
Yes, but everybody not getting 100K. Somebody's probably going to get two. Yeah, so I'll probably say 2.5 million to 4 million, two freshmen, and then the rest of it is going to everybody else. And there's going to be a base amount of pay. Like if you're a starter, there's going to be a base amount of pay that you get. You're an All-American. Here's what you're going to get. Here's that. You know what I mean? So we're going to, and that's what Georgia is essentially doing now. And that makes sure you don't mess your roster up because you're trying to. I mean, look at the Bryce Underwood situation with Michigan. Kid from Michigan committed to LSU, and now Michigan is talking about ponying up $10.5 million. Now, granted, I am happy for the kid, happy for him. Get that money because I can't even imagine what that's going to look like in 2030. um,
What's
I
crazy is it's still less. It's still less than the deal that Florida tried to work out for Jaden Rashada.
yeah.
That
And
just
do
shows
you
you
know
how
why I care about
far.
2030?
Oh, I know.
So
Oh, I know.
so so a 2030. So I'm like get your money, but in the also I'm like, wouldn't it make more sense to just go pay John Mateer like $2 million?
Yeah. Well, hey, if your 2030 needs a theme song from my 2027, I'm
Hey,
sure you could.
I'm not mad at it.
I'm sure my 2027 could write your 2030 some entrance music.
I like it. Bro, we going full. Oh, bro, we whole marketing campaign starts in 2025. We got 5 years to ramp that thing up.
I just
Question
love the
though.
generational prospect of me working for you, my kids working for your kids, their kids working for their kids.
Hey, bro, everybody gonna be eating. Everybody gonna be eating good.
These are
Uh,
some big ass table scraps.
hey, bro. Okay, so who are your current coach of the year candidates right now? Because
Dion.
this one is interesting to me, right? Because coach of the year, I don't think that you're gonna get guys like Dan Lanning and Mario Cristobal getting coach of the year love. Because it's hard to get coach of the year love when your rosters are so good and there were
Yeah.
expectations.
Well, the money has to factor in now. Your NIL spend has to factor into how good of a coaching job you did, in my
Mm,
opinion.
yes, for
I
sure.
feel like I feel like it's wrapped up. If Indiana exists, and they do, and they hit 10 wins, it's really hard for me to see anybody getting anything other than Kurt Signetti. That's really, I know RG3 came out and said story of the year Dion, and to a certain extent I agree. Even following a team that is also 7-2 and was picked below Colorado,
That's what I
I
was gonna
still
say.
feel like
Kenny Dillingham over at ASU, they were picked to finish last in the conference. I know Indiana was picked to finish close to last, and Kalani Sataki too
mm, yeah, Kalani Sataki for sure. For
over at
sure.
BYU. In case you don't know,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know.
So if I had to pick one right now, right?
Yeah.
If you were like George, cast your vote right now. I would cast it for Kalani Sataki. I'm sorry for Kurt Singeti. If you ask me if let's say that if Indiana beats Ohio State in 2 weeks, it's guaranteed Kurt Singeti.
Yeah, that's a wrap probably.
If they lose to Ohio State and Colorado wins out and gets into the college football playoff, it's Dion. If Arizona State has all the things break for them and they finish 10-2 and play for the Big 12 championship, it's Kenny Dillingham.
They only need two things to happen outside of winning out.
What's that?
Colorado has to lose once,
Okay,
and
that's not unthinkable.
West Virginia has to lose once. That's it.
That's
That's all they need.
that's unbelievable. And both of those things are highly possible. Yeah, highly possible. All right. Next thing up. All right, so Oklahoma came out and backed Brent Venables. Florida said that Billy Napier is safe. Do you think that schools are starting to exercise more patience with head coaches? No, I don't. The problem is the buyouts are too big. They don't want to exercise patience. If USC could fire Lincoln Riley for under $20 million right now, they would. If they like if Lincoln Riley's buyout was like $10 million, he would be gone. But it's $88 million. Billy Napier is 25 or 26. And I actually think it's smarter to keep Billy Napier. But at the same time, this is also happening in the same year that you're getting the story that we talked about first about the college football, the budgets, the $20.5 million, the revenue sharing. So that's a big deal too. Brent Venables, if his buyout was because they gave him an extension, his buyout now is like $44 million. And you think about the biggest buyouts paid of all time, it is Jimbo Fisher at $76 million. And then the next one, do you know who the next one is? The next biggest buyout ever paid in college football.
Well, it wasn't Mel Tucker.
Nope.
Um, I don't know. Tell me.
Gus Malzahn at Auburn for $20.8 million.
God dang.
So that's 56 more $1 million for Jimbo. And I don't think that that set a precedent. I actually think that with the new salary cap and everything else, I think that they're going to be trying to be more judicious with coaches' contracts because LSU is not exactly happy with Brian Kelly right now, but he's owed
No,
so
they're
much
not.
damn money. USC's not happy with Lincoln Riley. Oklahoma's not happy with Brent Venables. But the problem is that their contracts are so big that it makes it like if you're USC, you got to wait 5 more years before a buyout is even close to reasonable at 33 million.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the Deshaun Watson contract and people asking why do the Browns keep playing him because the only hope is that you try to fix it. Like fixing it is the only hope because the way the contract is you can't get out of it.
Hey, I got a 2015 Nissan Quest. 2015 Nissan Quest. It is paid off. It has been giving me problems lately. One of the slide door handles came off, and it's been shaking a little bit when we drive it. We took it in to get the new door handle put on, and they came back and said this needs $3,700 worth of work today. Today. And it's 10 years old. It's paid off. We put 160,000 miles on it. I've taken this on 5,000 mile road trips. We got a lot out of it. Could we use a new vehicle? Sure, sure. But anything that we buy new, that's going to be $700-800 a month in payments. So I did the math, and I was like, all right, 5 months of a new car payment to get us through another year with this van, or we drop 70K to bring in a new van to just get us from point A to point B. It makes sense to fix this van, and that and the and the fact that like us getting a new car would be like paying a buyout for our van to
For
get a
your
broken
Nissan
door
Quest.
handle. So that brings me to an article that you sent my way this week from On3 that said that the smart financial decision for a lot of coaches that you're unsatisfied with is going to actually be to reinvest in them instead of fire them.
Yep.
And how did it say that we were going to reinvest in these coaches, George?
Firing coordinators, offensive and defensive coordinators. So
But there's only
listen.
so many of those to go around. So what's going to happen to the salaries of these offensive and defensive coordinators?
Oh, they are still going to be about $1 million. It's just a lot easier to stomach a $3 million buyout for a coordinator than it is $80 million.
Well, but so you don't think Brennan Marion's price tag just went through the roof?
Oh yes. Oh. You're talking about people. Yes, 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 yes. Dude,
So we're like,
Brennan Marion should
if
be because I do believe there's going to be less big time head coaching jobs open. But yes, Brennan Marion should be making probably 1.5 million to 2 million next year because there should be a bunch of teams that are after him.
he could be making more than Barry Odom to do the same job he's doing now.
Yes. And would you take that Oklahoma job if you were him? Yes. Would you take USC? Actually, I don't think Lincoln's ever going to give up the play calling duty or anything. But yeah, the truth.
I worry though, because if you're that next dude at offensive coordinator and you go and you don't perform because maybe your head coach doesn't want to give up control or change styles or whatever, then you end up kind of like in a. I mean, you know Josh Gaddis, right?
Yeah.
Over at Maryland.
Dude, he's running a whole different style of offense than he was at Miami, which is wild.
But he had to evolve
Yep.
because everybody said he was the next big thing. And then he went into these situations with head coaches that don't actually like to change. And then all of a sudden, his reputation is damaged. And instead of being a head coach somewhere, he's an offensive coordinator at Maryland. And so
Yep.
that's what I worry about for these coordinators. They got to think long term. They might be taking a big paycheck to go be an emergency solution for a team that doesn't want to pay $25 million to get rid of Brent Venables. But if the offense doesn't look good in year one, then all of a sudden you went from being a rising star at OC to what? Just
Yeah.
another dude.
Yep. Yeah. Life comes at you fast sometimes. And that's why you got to strike when the iron's hot. Um, all right. So next thing up. So Bill O'Brien, he's been known to rub players the wrong way. He just benched his starting quarterback, Thomas Castellanos, over at Boston College. And Castellanos, who stuck with the coaching change after coming to BC from UCF, he got benched and then he left the team to cool off. But now it seems that it's permanent. And I think that this kid is going to be a big name in the portal. And when you look at his stats on the season, he's completing 61% of his passes, 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Is he an elite passer? No. Is he a good passer? Pretty good. But he's going to be sought after in the transfer portal. Who do you side with in this drama?
Who do you side with in this drama that just got Oregon their starter next year?
Nah, Oregon already got their starter on their roster right now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, they love the Novosad kid and they love Dante Moore. So it will be one of them for sure.
Okay.
Like I do not see a world where they bring in another transfer portal starter this year. I don't. That would be highly surprising. Highly.
I don't love this. I didn't love it when Charlie Brewer did it.
Hmm. I don't like quitting in the middle of the season. There's still a couple weeks left. Just finish out the season. You're already gonna hop in the transfer portal anyway. Just keep going to your meetings, keep showing up. They got SMU, North Carolina, and Pitt. Who knows if the kid that he starts, he may not even make it through 2 snaps. And you would have given up more opportunities to play. I don't like that. Finish out the season. I understand that you're frustrated, you're upset, you think you were wronged. Finish out the season. Man, I mean, it would be different if there was some advantage to not, but there's no advantage to not.
Yeah, I mean, you know a little bit about the kid. I've met him, I've interviewed him. If somebody called me and said, like, should I pursue him in the portal, I'm not going to hesitate. I'm just going to be like, yes, absolutely. Like, this is a type of college quarterback who will move the chains.
Yep.
He can run. He didn't run a lot this year, but he can run well.
Yeah, and if you can develop him as a passer, you're going to have a fantastic opportunity to have success.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, it's like a credit debit thing. Like I give him credit for sticking because that was a tough situation. That whole team could have bailed. However, um, yeah, it's not a good look.
No, no. In fact, it's a terrible look. Terrible look.
Yeah, and he should be punished by being made to play next year in Laramie, Wyoming.
Oh yeah, of course. I bet you would love him playing in Laramie, Wyoming.
You're damn
Um,
right I would.
yeah. But you guys though, I'm George Wrighster. He's Ralph Amsden. This is the College Football Apostles. You guys, make sure you guys check back next week. Check out all the stuff on the Unafraid Show. Peace out. Catch you guys next week.